You find yourself on a boat, drifting through a vast ocean. You feel the crisp air on your skin, you hear the wind and crashing waves. The air is salty, tinged with just a hint of seaweed. Despite the foggy mist, you feel the subtle warmth of the sun's rays on your skin. As you look out in the distance, you find that the horizon is hidden. Monochrome clouds blend the distinction between sea and sky. Sit for a moment and savor the austere beauty. Now, let me ask you a question. Where is this sea? You may make a guess. Perhaps it's in, say, Alaska or Antarctica. But none of these is the correct answer, because the sea is not a physical place. There is no water at all. It's just light coming from the pixels of your device. Vibrations produced by electromagnets pushing the air in a specific pattern. Your eyes and ears sense the information projected from the electronics. Your brain interprets it. And then you imagine a sea. This expansive ocean exists only in your mind. As my words continue, your own personal ocean changes. As I mention the salty smell, you imagine the sensation such an environment would produce. When I mention the cool air, you feel it in your head. This imagined ocean is unique for each and every one of the thousands of people who will watch this video. A person who is an expert sailor will imagine the ocean differently than one who has never been on a boat. But all of these oceans are generated in the same way. Sounds and light from this video cause our brains to take this information and use it to create a personal world, an individual interpretation. Now, let's consider a different ocean, the vast expanse of Minecraft lore. Over the past several years, I've released a series of videos called Deep Dives. We've looked at the evidence found within the game and used it to create theories to explain Minecraft's mysteries. We've explored the history of the Endermen, tried to understand the ancient monuments, looked into the strange mansions of the Illudens. We've considered the bastions and the piglins who live there, and we've looked at the zombie plague that has infested the overworld. But through it all, there's been one part of the game that we've yet to analyze. One key element of Minecraft that I've yet to tackle because of its difficulty, and that missing piece is the player. It's us, the one running around the world, building, crafting, destroying, and theorizing. The player is central to our experience of Minecraft, and yet it tends to evade logical explanation. But that ends tonight as we aim to answer one of Minecraft's most difficult and profound lore questions. Who is the player? Join me for a dive beneath the waves. To begin, we need to define some terminology. In this video, when I say player, I'm referring to the in-game character in Minecraft. The distinction is important because the term player is sometimes used in reference to the person behind the screen. However, for this video, the physical person playing Minecraft will always be called the human, and the in-game entity will always be called the player. With this definition, the human in real life controls the player in the game. The player is sometimes referred to as Steve or Alex. This comes from the names of the default skins. The Steve skin has existed since 2009, and the Alex skin has been around since 2014. Since then, several additional default skins have been added, for a total of 9. However, these skins don't actually exist as characters. There is no Steve or Alex in the Minecraft universe. Instead, they're just default options. A few high-ranking Mojang developers have talked about this. Jens Bergensten put it succinctly in a tweet, or an X, what's it called now? Anyways, Jens says, "Steve does not exist, you are the one in Minecraft." Agnes Larson echoes this idea. Steve and Alex are actually not part of the Minecraft world. They are intended to be placeholders for humans playing the game. So when you're playing Minecraft, you're not controlling the Steve character, because in Minecraft there is no Steve. Instead, you're controlling a unique entity who represents yourself. Whether your skin is one of the default skins or a custom skin, all of these possibilities are still considered the player. You are free to choose who this player is. From this discussion, we may be tempted to think that the player doesn't have any place in the Minecraft lore. However, if we look carefully, there are details which suggest that the player does in fact exist in the Minecraft universe. Perhaps the simplest piece of evidence is the fact that other mobs in Minecraft are aware of the player. Villagers will trade with them, and they will improve their skills as a result of this trading. Phantoms will spawn and attack players who haven't slept for days. Wolves can be tamed and will defend the player from attacks. These are all examples of ways in which the player directly affects other beings in the Minecraft world. This is the first step towards establishing the player as canon. The player's importance is further solidified by the very structure of the game. When the player travels to the end and kills the Ender Dragon, the credits roll, as the main story of Minecraft is complete. Since the player is the one who finishes the main story, it's only logical to assume that the player is an important part of the lore. This idea is supported if we look to Minecraft media beyond the base game. In Minecraft Dungeons' Creeping Winter DLC, we find a statue depicting an unknown player standing victoriously atop a dead Ender Dragon. The existence of this statue suggests that the sculptor was not only aware of the dragon's demise, but also viewed it as a momentous event deserving of commemoration. This is more evidence that the player's actions have meaning in the broader context of the Minecraft universe. The player is canon. Now that we've established the players existing in the Minecraft lore, our deep dive can truly begin. But as we start to think about the player, we quickly discover that it has some attributes that are difficult for us to explain. The most important issue is one that's really easy to overlook. That is the question of how does the player spawn in the first place? If we search for evidence to help us, we discover that Minecraft is shockingly quiet. And there's a reason for this. How can we possibly determine where the player came from when we can't use the player to look for evidence? How can we look back in time to the moment just before a new Minecraft world is created? And yet, the initial spawn of the player is very important. Killing the Ender Dragon is the event that completes the story of the base game. For that to occur, the player had to exist, which means the player also had to spawn for the first time. Therefore, there must be some explanation as to where the player came from. Otherwise, killing the Ender Dragon couldn't have happened. It is here that we arrive at a fundamental moment of tension, an issue that proves extremely difficult to resolve. How is it that the player is important to the lore, but we can't explain where it came from in the first place? How did it spawn? Any theory that attempts to explain the player needs to find some way to reconcile this apparent paradox, these two conflicting things that are somehow simultaneously true. But how? Let's take a step back for a moment. What exactly are we trying to do here? Well, we are attempting to create a Minecraft theory that explains the nature of the player. We are using the evidence presented to us to make inferences about the world of Minecraft. This is the same strategy I've used for the past 15 deep dives. But throughout this series, we've made a bit of an assumption, one which I haven't really explored in detail. This is the assumption that Minecraft even has lore in the first place. At its core, Minecraft is a sandbox game. We craft and destroy and modify the world how we see fit. With one major exception, we don't follow a specific story. We build the world ourselves. There's an argument to be made that Minecraft theorizing is similar. We work within the restrictions of the game to create our own version of what we believe to be the explanations of the world. These theories can have varying levels of thought and may range from well-supported to totally off the wall. But still, at its core, every Minecraft theory is just an interpretation generated from the facts we see in the game. One of the unique elements of Minecraft is that this individualistic nature of the lore is actually encouraged by the Mojang developers. Let's listen to a section of an interview by Matthew Gatland, a developer who worked on the Trail Ruins structure.
We had a level designer who worked with our narrative director on designing the structure. There's a lot of stuff that you as players don't get to see about like why the structure is here, who built it, what was their society all about, which we are definitely not going to tell you, but we had to know that to be able to create the structure and make sure it's consistent. I went through all of their notes about the society who lived here, what sort of society they were, what they did, what technologies they had, what were the things they didn't like to do, and kind of translating that into a loot table. But what we're trying to do here is choose items that actually do say something about the structure.
There are several interesting elements to this quote. The first is that there actually is some sort of written out Minecraft lore at Mojang. There are notes that talk about the society that built the ruins, who they were, what they did. But these notes are hidden. In his words, they're definitely not going to tell us. We likely will never have access to the written out lore deep within Mojang. However, we do have access to little bits and pieces, little hints about the lore. That's what Matthew was creating when he designed the loot tables. He added small chunks of information that are consistent with the written lore. What we find in the suspicious gravel gives us a little hint about what's really going on, an incomplete picture of the underlying truth. As we play the game, we look at these puzzle pieces and fill in the gaps with our own interpretations. Maybe there are leads because there used to be animals on this trail. Maybe these pottery shards were from pots that were transported and sold. Maybe the specific design indicated something about the value of the pot. Everyone who comes across the trail ruins will come up with a slightly different idea. Some ideas may be well supported by the evidence, others may not be. Some may ignore the evidence altogether. But all people who see the trail ruins will have an opportunity to use the information available to come up with some sort of way to explain what they see, a way to fill in the gaps. If you listen to how Mojang employees talk, they reference this concept time and time again.
I love the story sides of the archaeology, because we often talk about that we want to deepen the mystery in Minecraft. And when you find these hidden artifacts, you kind of find like connections and hints. And we will never tell the full story, but these will inspire the players to tell their own stories.
This is the same core idea. There are bits and pieces that suggest the deeper truth, but this truth will never be revealed. We will never tell the full story. The fact that the written out lore cannot be seen contains an important consequence. It is not possible to know for sure if any given interpretation of the evidence is correct. Certain Minecraft theories may be more well supported by things in the game, and others may have obvious flaws. But even for the most well-reasoned, nuanced, and intelligent theory, we cannot completely know if it's accurate, since this would require us to have the written out lore to compare. The best we can ever do is say that it aligns with the evidence available. This concept is so important because this is exactly how Mojang designed the game. As experienced by the people playing the game, Minecraft lore is fundamentally and irrevocably a personal interpretation. Mojang does things specifically to reinforce this. The reason they don't provide much information is because they want us to have the creativity to develop it ourselves. It is set up so that this is the only possible way to experience the lore of Minecraft. My own personal interpretation of Minecraft is the Deep Dive series. I've taken the approach where I first understand the available evidence as best I can. Then I look for explanations that I feel align with these hints. I attempt to find theories that are logical and well supported by the in-game information. But ultimately, a deep dive is still just an interpretation. I can never know if I truly got it correct. This idea of Minecraft lore being fundamentally entangled to a personal interpretation is a fascinating concept. Never being able to know the written out lore is an approach that is very different from many other media franchises. And to make things even more intriguing, there's actually a major piece of evidence in the game that supports these ideas. It's something that I have never talked about in the Deep Dive series, but as you will soon see, it's shockingly applicable to this discussion. And that final piece is the end poem. We have good reason to be careful with the end poem, because in many ways it is completely unlike anything else in the game of Minecraft. It's an extended piece of writing that is shown prior to the credits sequence once the player kills the Ender Dragon. Compared to the rest of Minecraft's open-ended gameplay, a long piece of text is very out of place. There are many people who ignore the end poem outright. Some say it's just an odd relic from the notch days of Minecraft. In fact, the original request was for a silly, over-the-top, out-of-nowhere text for when you win Minecraft. The author Julian Gao certainly delivered. Out of nowhere is a massive understatement. But what's intriguing is that, after all these years, it remains in the game. There have been plenty of opportunities for it to be removed. After Notch sold the game to Microsoft, Mojang showed no fear in making drastic changes to features from the Notch era. And yet, despite all the other adjustments, Mojang has never touched the end poem. If you haven't read the end poem, well, I don't blame you. I did an informal poll on my Twitter, or X, in which nearly a third of people had never read a single word. 37% have read it just once. That was the category that I personally fit into until very recently. In 2011, Minecraft version 1.0 was released, which included the end poem. I read it once, said to myself, that was weird, and then didn't read it again for over 10 years. But during production of this video, I decided on a whim to take another look at it. So I read it, and then I read it again and again. And the more I read it, the more I started to gain an appreciation for its value as a piece of literature. And slowly, I began to realize that it would be helpful for our discussions in this video. Before we dive in, I want to make it clear that I don't view the end poem as canon in the sense that the narrators represent actual beings in the Minecraft universe. I found no evidence in favor of this view. Instead, I read the end poem as an allegory, a way to help us understand Minecraft conceptually. Obviously, I'm going to recommend that you read the poem before continuing this video. To make it easier, I've uploaded a recording of me reading it on my second channel, Modern Gaming Later. Enjoy it, this is the closest you're ever going to get to retro ASMR. But even if you don't do that, I'll try my best to keep you caught up. The poem unfolds as a dialogue between two voices, blue and green. They discuss the player who has just completed the game, and we find ourselves reading their thoughts as though they were words on a screen. We soon encounter a significant and recurring metaphor in the poem, the notion of a dream. The poet writes that many things could be dreams. Minecraft, for example, is the dream of a game, and life itself is the long dream of life. This metaphor is central to the poem. But what is a dream? At its core, a dream is a personal, subjective experience had by a human dreamer. Whether we're playing Minecraft, reading a book, or just taking a stroll outside, we're dreaming, living in our own personal interpretation of reality. And this subjective reality is what dreams are based upon. It's some sort of truer version of reality than the dream. While the dream is an interpretation, objective reality is what's actually going on. A human has limited access to objective reality using something called an interface. This transfers information between the human dreaming and the objective reality underlying the dream. The interface is inherently limited. It's not possible for the person dreaming to fully understand reality. But they do get some information about it, some bits and pieces. As the dreamer learns more about the objective reality, they start to create a world in their mind. This world is the core of their interpretation. Information from the interface is considered and used to create a personal understanding and belief about what the dreamer is experiencing. So a dream has 4 key elements: the dreamer, or the person making the interpretation, the objective reality, or deeper truth, the interface, which provides limited information about the objective reality to the dreamer, and the world, which is the interpretation created by the dreamer using that information. I know, this sounds complicated, but once you gain a grasp of it, you'll see that it's actually not too difficult. It'll be easier to understand if we look at an example. Remember the opening sequence of the video where I showed you footage of an ocean and asked you to imagine that you were there? I didn't do that for no reason. Instead, that situation could be considered a dream. The objective reality of it was glowing pixels on a screen, air being pushed by speakers in a specific way. There actually was no ocean, no flowing water in your room, no smell of seaweed. But you used the interface of your senses, your sight and your hearing, to gather information from your device. Your brain took this information to create an imagined world. You imagined that you were on a boat. You imagined that you could feel the soft sun on your skin. You took the evidence given to you and you interpreted it, generating a world that didn't exist beforehand. That was a dream. It was a personal, interpretive experience using limited information from an objective reality. But this is just one example. The poem goes into depth about many other types of dreams, with different worlds, different interfaces, and even different objective realities. If a person is reading a novel, the objective reality could be considered the true intentions of the author. The interface is the words on the page, and the world imagined by the reader is produced from these words. The landscapes and settings the reader imagines will be different from that of the author. The way the characters talk and their interactions will be too. No 2 people who read that book will imagine exactly the same world. They will always be at least slightly different to the objective reality of the author's intention. This dream concept is so powerful because it's so universal. Our lives are inundated with subjective experiences in literature, media, and in work and school. It's kind of hard to escape it. Every experience we can ever have is, on a certain level, subjective. Throughout all these dreams, the constant is the person dreaming. We have these various experiences, be it playing Minecraft, having dinner with a friend, or subscribing to RetroGamingNow. Wink wink. And as we move through these dreams, the dreams change and shift depending on what we're doing, how we're feeling, what we're thinking. The dream changes, the interface changes, the world of the dream changes, but it's still the same us experiencing it. If you find this interesting, then definitely be sure to read the end poem after you finish this video. My explanations of it here are surface level. My full analysis of the poem could be a dedicated video. For now, though, the important thing to understand is the concept of a dream and how all 4 elements are necessary: a dreamer, an objective reality, an interface, and the world. So where are we going with all this? Dreams are personal interpretations using limited evidence of a deeper reality. And you know what else is like that? Minecraft theories. If we return to Nur's quote, we can see that the dream model applies almost perfectly. I love the story side of the archaeology because we often talk about that we want to deepen the mystery in Minecraft. And when you find these hidden artifacts, you kind of find like connections, and we will never tell the full story, but these will inspire the players to tell their own stories. Our experience of Minecraft lore is fundamentally a personal interpretation. The full story is the objective reality, the written down lore at Mojang that the people playing will never be able to see. However, we can find hidden artifacts which provide limited information about the deeper truth. We can use this information to develop our own world of understanding, our own Minecraft theories. The dream framework is in alignment with what Mojang has created. And this is why I think it's incorrect to say that the end poem no longer has relevance to Minecraft. The way Mojang wants us to experience Minecraft lore is extremely similar to the dream idea, a subjective interpretation. And it's required to be a subjective interpretation. Since we cannot see the objective truth of the written lore, we're forced to experience it subjectively no matter what. But there's one key element missing. How does the human dreamer get information about the objective reality? How do we learn bits and pieces of the hidden lore so that we can fill in the gaps? What is the interface of this dream? The answer is complex, yet beautifully simple. The interface is the player. The player is how we as humans experience the lore of Minecraft. We see the game through the perspective of the player. We tell the player to explore and find ancient monuments whose mysteries are hidden from us. We discover scheming illagers whose motivations are not obvious to us. We find a bizarre, indestructible frame in an ancient city whose purpose is not shown to us. And as we play the game, the evidence starts to add up and we start to create theories. Maybe the Guardians are artificial beings which can be neutralized using a conduit. Maybe the illagers used to be villagers and are exerting control over them with an iron fist. Maybe the purpose of the ancient city is to enchant items. Through all of this, the thing providing us information about Minecraft is the player. It's how we see these structures, these mobs, these societies. It's all because the player is there to show it to us. And when we really start to think about it, we stumble across a profound truth. The player is required for a Minecraft theory to exist at all. If there was no player, there would be no way for us to see inside the universe of the game. There would be no interface, no bits of evidence, no way to make any sort of explanations. Minecraft would be nothing more than a computer program, zeros and ones, linear algebra being performed by electrical signals. We as humans are the ones who give life to the game. We are the ones who see these pixels as characters with motivations, structures with history, mobs with purpose. Without the player, Minecraft lore is forever hidden, locked away in the archives of Mojang. But since we can control the player, we can see those puzzle pieces. We can take them and use them to interpret and build worlds. We can create fantastical theories, explanations for all of Minecraft's deepest mysteries. And we can only do that because the player lets us see just a bit of it. Remember what Mojang said about the player? You are the one in Minecraft. You are the one creating the lore, giving purpose to the game's universe. In the words of the end poem, you are the player, the story, the program, the human. And it is in this sense that the player is deeply, fundamentally important to the lore. So important that without it, we could never experience the lore at all. We could never interpret the hints, as we'd never be able to see them. This is the key and most important purpose of the player. But it's not the only purpose. Remember, the player does have an in-lore purpose too, which is to kill the Ender Dragon. We figured out that this was important, but couldn't quite determine where the player came from in the first place. Now we can revisit this question, and when we do, we realize that it doesn't really matter if we can't explain within the lore how the player spawned initially. Even if there is no in-lore explanation, it still has a purpose by being necessary for there to even be lore. The alternative is that the player never spawns, and we never know about the game's universe. So for there to be lore at all, the spawn of the player is a requirement. That's reason enough for its existence. As you probably have noticed by now, this is a video about Minecraft theorizing, disguised as a video about the player. I started the deep dive series without seriously thinking about what I was actually doing, and how the lore in Minecraft worked. Instead, I just noticed things that seemed like they could have some interesting explanations. So I made a video, and well, here I am today, a 16th deep dive and over 400,000 amazing subscribers. Since the first deep dive, I've had the chance to talk to many people, and I've read countless theories. I've seen theorists with extremely polished, complicated, and technical theories. And then I've seen theories that are, well, let's just say less supported by the evidence. Through it all, I found myself starting to think more broadly about what it was we were doing. How are we making theories? How is the Minecraft lore presented? And why did Minecraft theorizing feel so different to other mysterious games? And I started to see the true beauty of it, how this personal interpretation and expression is fundamental to what makes Minecraft, well, Minecraft. Theorizing is not dissimilar to how the gameplay works. Minecraft provides building blocks. You can take those blocks and build spectacular structures, or you can take them and build dirt huts. You don't have to build much at all if you don't want to, but if you do, it's designed such that certain blocks seem to naturally work well with other blocks. Minecraft lore is the same way. Mojang provides us with lore building blocks, little hints in the form of structures, items, mobs, and so on. And perhaps some of these hints fit together in especially logical ways, leading to theories that seem to just make sense. Theories that seem like they could be close to the written out lore. Or maybe you use these hints to tell fantastical, illogical stories. There isn't a right way to do it. Ultimately, it's all about your personal creativity. And the thing I keep coming back to is that the lore is designed to be experienced this way. If we want to understand the lore, we're forced to make some of these connections on our own, just as we're forced to build shelter on our own. And I think this is really, really cool. We're going to close with a quote. This is from the Minecraft game design book written by Jens. While it's not for sale, it does exist in a Swedish library, and I had the opportunity to read it. There's a section called Expand the Mysteries, which says the following. There are many weird and strange things in Minecraft. They don't often make a lot of sense, but it's not our job to explain them. Why are there monsters at night? What are the Illudens? Who built the stronghold? Such questions can be the starting point of a story, and even if we have our own idea, we should keep it to ourselves. And now from the end poem. Sometimes the player dreamed it was a miner on the surface of a world that was flat and infinite. The sun was a square of white, the days were short, there was much to do, and death was a temporary inconvenience. Sometimes the player dreamed it was lost in a story. Sometimes the player dreamed it watched words on a screen. And sometimes the player believed the universe had spoken to it through the sunlight that came through the shuffling leaves of the summer trees. And sometimes the player believed that the universe had spoken to it through the light that fell from the crisp night sky of winter, where a fleck of light in the corner of the player's eye might be a star 1,000,000 times as massive as the sun, boiling its planets to plasma in order to be visible for a moment to the player, walking home at the far side of the universe, suddenly smelling food, almost at the familiar door, about to dream again. And sometimes the player believed that the universe had spoken to it through the zeros and ones, through the electricity of the world, through the scrolling words on the screen at the end of a dream. I want to thank you all for joining me on this deep dive. I know it's a bit different than other videos I've done, but I had a ton of fun working on it, and I hope you enjoyed watching it. If you did, feel free to subscribe, it really helps me out. Also, join the Discord server if you want. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video. Before we conclude today, I have a message from someone on the RGN Discord server who recently lost a loved one to unknown causes. These are their words. I spent countless hours on the screen and neglected my own parents in the process. I'd pushed them away, and eventually I didn't talk with my father once, even on some days, and I seldom spoke with my mother when I was on my PC. But now, my father is dead, gone forever, and only now do I understand my mistake and deeply regret it. So I warn you, do not repeat this mistake. Spend time with your parents, treat them with respect and kindness, care for them when they need your care. There will be a day when they're gone, and you'll regret the moments you wasted. Do not learn this the hard way like I did. Do not neglect them. Cherish the time you have, and seek out those times. After talking with him for a bit, we've decided that we want to make a difference. If you would like to join us in the fight against cancer, I've created a fundraiser for the Cancer Research Institute. I've made a donation to get us started. Let's see how much we can raise as a community. And be sure to call your parents today. Like, seriously, do it. Cherish those moments while you still have them. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video.